Food comes in far more forms than what we usually see on our plates. Across different climates and cultures, people have learned to eat plants that look, taste, and grow in unexpected ways. Some appear almost unnatural, while others challenge what we think fruits and vegetables should be. We all know no kid likes to be told to eat their fruits and veg. Maybe it's their sometimes strange appearances, the odd flavors and textures, or maybe it's just the fact that their parents are telling them to do it. But there are some fruits and vegetables that are truly spectacular and much more interesting. Join me for today's video. I'm going to count down the top 15 most unusual fruits and vegetables that people eat. Number 15. Cucamelons. Watermelons make for the perfect summer treat. We all know that. Eating it as a side or at a cookout, or just carving some up and sitting in the park on a hot day. It makes for the sweetest of cool downs. But watermelons are pretty huge, way too big to lug around casually. That's where the cucamelons come in. Sort of. Cucamelons are 1 to 2 inch long bits that look like minuscule watermelons but have a fresh cucumber-like taste. These tiny fruits are also sometimes called mouse melons and Mexican sour gherkins. However, while the cucamelons are related to the more common garden plant watermelon, melons, and cucumbers, they are a member of a different genus entirely, Melothria. The cucamelon or Melothria scabera is native to Mexico and Central America, where it's called sandita, which means little watermelon in Spanish. And these little veggies clearly look like much tinier watermelons, with their pale green skin and darker green markings. Inside the tiny fruit, you won't find that red juicy color. Instead, you'll find a pale white flesh. But there's no need to peel these tiny mouse melons. The entire thing is edible. For best result, cucamelon should be planted in full sun, in well-draining soil. The vines of these plants can grow to between 5 and 10 feet long. But be patient. These annual vines are slow to get going. Plus, these cucamelon vines are pest, drought, and disease resistant, and they produce tiny ripe fruit in 60 to 75 days. Number 14. Armenian cucumbers. If it looks like a cucumber and mostly tastes like one, is it a cucumber? Well, a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. But no matter which way you slice it, these next vegetables are a real stunner. Armenian cucumber plants are in the same genus as cucumbers, but belong to a separate species more closely related to those giant muskmelons you find in the grocery store. That basically makes them Armenian cucumber melons, which may make things a little confusing. They have thin skin, soft flesh, and a line of small seeds which can be easily removed if you wish. The fruits are gently ribbed. They start out as a lush green and turn yellow when ripe. When that happens, they're perfect for slicing up because their flavor is lightly sweet and refreshing, not unlike the more common green cousin. The plants grow on annual vines, which need training vertically. And when reaching their full potential, these Armenian cucumbers take on an amazing bent shape. The stems are angular and decorated with fine hairs. With both male and female, small yellow blooms are produced. The leaves are almost grape-like and profuse. Because they hold so much water, these topsy-turvy plants are extremely drought and heat tolerant, and they've proven themselves in many high-desert gardens year after year. The only catch here is these vegetables can over-ripen on the vine pretty quickly, so once they're good to go, pick them and eat them fast. Number 13. Kiwano jelly melons. Kiwanos look like an alien species here to slowly invade us, or something a mad scientist might have cooked up. These fruits look like short and fat cucumbers that have sprouted spiky horns. Despite this off-putting appearance, kiwanos are not only edible, but they're also delightfully refreshing. Native to the tropical regions of Africa, they also go by the names of jelly melon, horn melon, and African horned cucumber. Like mouse melons, Armenian cucumbers, and banana melons, kiwanos are classified as Cocumus meltilliferus. They are vining plants that produce oval-shaped fruits that are 2.5 to 6 inches long and covered with thick horns. One ripe kiwano fruit turns yellow or orange. Inside, the fruit contains thin, flat seeds surrounded by a bright green gel that have a citrusy and refreshing taste. While these are similar to cucumbers, kiwanos are all gel and have no flesh. When you eat one of these odd-looking fruits, you'll find that their texture is similar to that of a passion fruit. As for the seeds, you can strain them out or just enjoy their crunch. Plant guano seeds in well-drained soil in full sun, or start them indoors and transplant them when the risk of frost has passed. The soil temperature is at least 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Guano vines can grow to be 10 feet long and do very well on trellises. These plants seem to be very resistant to insects and can even be used as a barrier against large garden pests like deer or rabbits, since vines are also prickly. These long-season fruits take approximately 120 days to reach maturity. When it's time to harvest, do so carefully and watch out for those thorns. Number 12. Indigo Rose Cherry Tomatoes. 3 colors, 1 tomato. Indigo Rose cherry tomatoes are relatively new to the plant kingdom and don't quite occur naturally. They had a little help from us humans out in the field. Sometimes, plant breeders develop new cultivars not just to improve taste or transportability, but with also health in mind. Such is the case with the purple-hued indigo rose. This cherry tomato was developed at Oregon State University by Professor Jim Myers with a goal for making it a vehicle for anthocyanins, those chemicals that may act as antioxidants in our body. These cocktail-sized tomatoes have purple skin, where they're touched by the sun, and flavor that's both sweet and acidic. Indigo Rose has a good disease resistance and, as a semi-determinate tomato variety, would benefit from being stacked to support its 5-foot vines. These tomatoes will be ready to pick in approximately 90 days after transplanting. When ripe, the bottoms of the Indigo Rose tomatoes turn from green to red, and the shiny purple skins turn to a matte brownish purple. They're an incredibly unique addition to the farm and a reminder of what nature and humans can do when they work together nicely. And it seems they're even better for us than we could possibly imagine. All these tomatoes contain lycopene, an antioxidant that helps protect your body's cells from damage. Black tomatoes contain high levels of lycopene, but their black skins are also a source of anthocyanins, an antioxidant that's famously found in the skins of blueberries. These unique tomatoes offer twice the healthy bang for your buck. It's not a bad deal. Number 11. Osea. A starchy, funky-looking winter vegetable, the perennial South American tuber that is the osea has a slightly tangy flavor and similar to potatoes. It's crunchy when raw and starchier when boiled or baked. Another unique vegetable that had a little help from its friends, the osea did not originally appear in nature, but rather has been cultivated over centuries by selectively breeding other tubers. It's been a most valuable crop due to its high nutritional content, easy cultivation, and high tolerance for poor soil, high altitude, and harsh climates. No matter what happens, it seems that the osea endures. There are a handful of variations of the osea grown around the world, with an array of colors and flavors being created through human intervention during cultivation. But the second best place to find them is in New Zealand, where they've become so common over the years that they simply call them yams. Unlike their highly consumed cousins, osea is a little easier to eat straight from the dirt if one so chooses. But the best way to eat these versatile tubers is boiled, baked, grilled, or fried. In New Zealand, it's common to find them on the same plate as a nice rack of lamb or in a hearty stew in the winter. And for those with a hankering for some comfort food, osea makes a great mash. Number 10. Pine berries. What looks like an inverted strawberry, pine berries are proof that fruit can look as good as they taste. And while they may look like a toy, too good to be true, they are the real deal. So, how did these white strawberries with red seeds come to be? Well, it all began more than 300 years ago. Red strawberries from Europe first made their debut in North America in the 17th century and were followed by white strawberries from South America about 100 years later. The white strawberry is female and harder to grow because it needs red strawberries and bees to continue pollinating. That's how the male, self-pollinating red strawberries became the dominant strawberry in our grocery stores today. They're just easier to grow in larger quantities. But at the turn of the 21st century, Dutch breeder Hans de Jonghaar developed the pineberry by crossbreeding the red and white varieties. And around a year after, pineberries started popping up on US shelves. So, can you grow these cuties on your own? Well, the short answer is yes, but they need a little extra love, attention, and work to come to fruition in your garden. While fairly easy to grow, growing pineberries from seeds isn't an option since these are hybrid plants and need to be crossbred. Unlike the traditional red varieties, the pineberry will only grow if strawberries are nearby to pollinate them. So when your white pineberries start to grow, It will be totally natural to see some red ones growing on the same plant. They also need slightly acidic soil with good drainage in order to thrive. So if you're already growing strawberries in your garden, you're in luck. All you gotta do is find a pineberry plant or two to buy and intersperse them within your red varieties. It's worth the trouble. Number 9. Custard apple. Custard apples are a genus of about 170 species of small trees or shrubs of the family Enochi, native to the New World tropics. Custard apples are of local importance as traditional medicines, and several species are commonly grown for their edible fruits. In short, they're pretty cool. Their name can leave some newcomers scratching their heads until they taste one of these earthly delights. Despite being green on the outside, custard apples don't look like your average apple on the inside. But when you cut one open to find the white flesh whose consistency is like that of custard, things kind of get switched up. The fruit has a slightly acidic taste and contains dark brown seeds, and its characteristic taste is said to be a mix of pineapple and strawberry. It's believed that these custard apples originated from the West Indies and were carried to southern Mexico through Central America. For a long time, the fruit has thrived in the areas that stretch as far as Peru and Brazil. They were introduced to the tropical regions of Africa around the 17th century, where they were grown as dooryard fruit trees in South Africa. The fruit tree is also cultivated or grows wildly in areas around India. It's present in the Philippines and other areas around Southeast Asia, too. Today, though, it's more common in the Bahamas, Bermuda, and southern Florida. But one of the last places you should expect to see the delicious custard apple is in a grocery store. So if you want to taste one of these, then you'll have to buy a plane ticket and do a little bit of legwork. Number 8. Breadfruit. Give us our daily bread. Well, what about breadfruit? From the Moraceae family, which includes figs, mulberry, and the versatile jackfruit, breadfruit comes from the nutrient-rich breadfruit tree, growing on branches in large quantities when they're in season. These incredibly useful plants originated in the South Pacific, specifically New Guinea, and have made their way to the rest of Oceania as well as other tropical regions as a low-effort, low-cost staple food, much like a simple loaf of bread. But if these are so popular, then why don't we see them popping up in grocery stores all over? Because it's sensitive to physical disturbances, such as damage from being dropped. Breadfruit is not often exported out of tropical climates for sale and more temperate areas. In the tropical areas of the Oceanias, breadfruit can be picked directly from the branches of the breadfruit tree and comes in various colors, but always grows with a rounded, globular shape and covered in bumps. How do you eat something like that? Breadfruit is delicious mashed or sautéed with garlic and oil, or even thrown into a stew. Some parts of the world like to mash it up with coconut milk and baked in banana leaves. In Sri Lanka, it's often featured in coconut curries, and in Puerto Rico, it's traditionally eaten with salted codfish. This versatile fruit can also be candied, pickled, or cut into strips to make breadfruit French fries. It all just depends on where in the world you go. Number 7. Jabuticaba. This next fruit grows on trees, but not the way you think. Instead of dangling from the branches, the jabuticaba is the bark itself, making for one of the strangest looking fruits in nature that somehow gives you the chills when you see it. Put simply, the trees look sick. The jabuticaba grows on a host of trees and belongs to the myrtle family of trees, known for their edible fruits. Although the jabuticaba is native to only 3 states in southeastern Brazil, it's also successfully grown in warmer regions of North America, including the western and southern areas of the United States that typically avoid freezing temperatures. But exporting them out of the country is incredibly difficult because these thick-skinned, dark purple berries have an extremely short shelf life and begin to ferment 3 to 4 days after being picked. Even then, they're only in season for just a few weeks out of the year. This jabuticaba tree only thrives in a subtropical climate and in rich, well-drained soil. Once planted, the tree can take anywhere between 6 to 8 years to bear fruit, but when they do, they can produce up to 100 pounds of it. All they require is some extreme patience. So, what do these berries taste like? Well, they're both sweet and acidic, with tough, tart skin and a pale, fleshy center that's incredibly sweet. They can be eaten raw, but their time here is limited, so to avoid them going to waste, they're often turned into jam, jelly, juice, and liquor, or added to a caipirinha, a cocktail made famous in Brazil. The berry's name derives from tupi, an ancient Brazilian language, and means turtle or Djibouti and land, kaba, in recognition of the turtles that once surrounded the area and grazed on the fruit. Slow-growing fruit named after a slow-moving animal. Sweet. Number 6. Cupuaçu. Cupuaçu is a tree related to ever-popular cacao that grows in the Amazon basin, particularly in the northern parts of Brazil. The trees form large brown fruits which can be over 3 pounds each, so when they fall from the tree, make sure you're far away from it. The fruits have hard, slightly fuzzy shells which you can crack open with a hammer, or a head if you're unlucky enough. Inside, you'll find a delicious-smelling, creamy pulp surrounding about 30 to 50 seeds. It is truly a unique fruit that, to the untrained eye, can look like a rusty can hanging from a tree. So, what does something like this even taste like? Well, the yellow cupuaçu pulp is incredibly sour and tangy, but it also has a very intricate flavor profile. People describe it as tasting like pineapple, pear, sour pop, and banana all at once, while the creamy texture of cupuaçu pulp is a bit reminiscent of coconut. And don't throw out all those seeds either, because they can be eaten raw. The seeds are slightly bitter and earthy tasting, but it's more common to separate those seeds from the pulp, fermented and dried much like their cacao cousin, to make cupuliti, which tastes like chocolate but with tangy, fruity undertones. Cupuaçu is an incredibly difficult thing to ship, so while you shouldn't plan on coming across this fruit at the store, you may find products like oil, butter, juice, and powder from the fruit all made in Brazil and exported elsewhere. Number 5. Black sapote. It can be a little alarming to crack open a fruit only for the inside to be soft and black. That's usually a telltale sign that you should have thrown it out weeks ago, unless it's a black sapote. Also known as the chocolate pudding fruit, black sapote is a tropical fruit and is native to Mexico, Central America, and Colombia. It's also related to persimmons. Mature trees can grow to over 82 feet tall and often sprouting both male and female flowers, allowing them to be self-compatible. This is another tree where patience is the key because it can take up to 3 to 4 years for the trees to bear fruit, but black sapote is worth the wait. The fruit itself resembles a tomato, growing about 4 inches in diameter. Their inedible skin turns from olive to a deep yellow-green when ripe and a pulp that's white and inedible when unripe, but assumes a flavor, color, and texture often likened to chocolate pudding when it's ready to eat. They may be strange, but the black sapote is absolutely incredible. They're delicious, nutritious, and because they lack any insect pests out in the world, they're pesticide-free. And if you can get your hands on these deliciously mushy fruits, then they can be used to make black sapote bread in the same way one would use bad bananas. Number 4. Buddha's hand. Time to lend a helping hand with this next entry. It's also known as fingered citron. Buddha's hand is a variety of citron that usually contains no fruit, pulp, juice, or seeds. It gets its name from its obvious, unusual shape, which resembles a hand with multiple splayed fingers, although some cultivars resemble more of a closed hand than an open one. And while its inside beneath its bright yellow peel are nothing but bitter, white pith, its zest adds a lovely lemon blossom-like flavor to dishes, and it can be used in any preparation that calls for citrus zest. Its peel can also be candied. Just whatever you do, don't bite into one without preparing it. Like most citrus, fingered citron needs a warm or at least temperate climate in which to grow, so where lemons and oranges can grow, so can Buddha's hand. Also, like other citrus fruit, it ripens and is harvested starting in winter and may be available to buy into spring. It tends to come into season a bit more in line with grapefruit and oranges, so it may be well into winter before you see it piled up at markets. But it's not really an uncommon sight in the West, but this odd-looking fruit may be given as a religious offering in the Buddhist temples of Southeast Asia. According to tradition, Buddha prefers the fingers of the fruit to be in a position where they resemble a closed hand to symbolize the act of prayer. In China, the Buddha's hand fruit is a symbol of happiness, longevity, and good fortune, and is a traditional New Year's gift. Number 3. Durian. Durian is without a doubt one of the most polarizing natural foods on the planet. Despite that sentiment, it's still nicknamed the king of fruits. Durian is pretty tough to miss. Its large, spiky, greenish-brown fruit is native to Southeast Asia. It's known for its strong odor when ripe, which can vary in intensity depending on the variety of the durian. But when one is cracked open, Many people find the odor off-putting, and the fresh fruit has even been banned from some public places and mass transit. It's that bad, with many describing the smell akin to dirty gym socks, rotten eggs, cut onions, manure, and sometimes even dead animals. Some even describe the flesh as tasting similar, but fans of the fruit describe it as having notes of almond and with a custard-like texture. I guess everybody's different, but when ripe, the durian's flesh is uniquely tender and creamy. It's not acidic, overly sweet, or overly juicy. The odor, flavor, and coloration can vary depending on the variety of durian, making it one of the most hit-or-miss foods on the planet. Durian's short season and limited shelf life, as well as rising demand, means the fruit is relatively expensive, particularly when imported. Think of it like a stinky French cheese, incredibly popular and incredibly strange that a lot of people just can't get enough of. Number 2. Rambutan. If you live in or have ever visited the tropical countries of the Asian continent, then you might know a thing or two about rambutan. Growing in places like Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Australia, rambutan grows on a medium-sized tree, which is related to the sweet and delicious lychee. It can be intimidating at first with the furry, prickly exterior, but the interior flesh is everyone should try at least once in their life. In fact, the name rambutan means hairy, referring to the spikes on the skin of the fruit. But fear not, because those spikes aren't even remotely sharp. Instead, they're fleshy and pliable, and all too easy to rip off with your bare hands. Like the lychee under the rind, there is a tasty white flesh of the fruit and a giant single and nettable seed, so don't swallow this one whole. The flavor of rambutan is a little like grapes, with a slight strawberry quality, slightly acidic and sweet. It's got a pleasant fragrance that may be desired in some cooked dishes, but it's best eaten raw. Rambutans are high in vitamin C, plus copper, manganese, and trace elements of many other nutrients such as potassium, calcium, and iron, so they make for the perfect, healthy, and pretty fun snack. Number 1. Romanesco. There's really only one way to describe this final vegetable on our list: trippy. It's also known as broccoflower or Roman cauliflower. Romanesco is a chartreuse, unique-looking vegetable prized for its mind-blowing, fractal appearance. It's sometimes assumed to be a hybrid between broccoli and cauliflower, but it's botanically different, resembling spirals instead of a tiny tree. These near-perfect fractals, which together form the overall spiral of a head of Romanesco, make it an attractive choice at the market and way too hard to take your eyes off of, especially when seeing it for the first time. Romanesco looks more like a work of art than it does a vegetable, and really makes you wonder what forces are at work when something like this can sprout. Simply put, it's stunning. So, will biting into one of these reveal the secrets of the universe to you, unfolding both time and space? Well, no, but what you'll get is a milder, sweeter, and nuttier flavor and tender consistency than that of broccoli and cauliflower. Or, if you'd rather hang it up on the wall as a work of art, that may work too for a short time. From strange shapes to unfamiliar flavors, these plants show how diverse edible food can be. Many of them remain local, seasonal, or difficult to find, making them even more fascinating. Together, they highlight just how inventive nature and cultivation can be.